First contact with teeth. Dr. Maya Rise pressed her palm against the transparent aluminum viewport, watching stars blur past as the transport shuttle approached Outpost Helios. After 3 years of specialized training and 6 months in cryosleep, she finally reached the edge of explored space, humanity's newest frontier. First deployment, asked the Saurian pilot beside her, manipulating the controls with 6-fingered hands. Commander Trell belonged to one of the first alien species humanity had encountered, reptilian beings who'd served as humanity's introduction to the wider galactic community. Is it that obvious? Maya smiled, pushing a strand of dark hair behind her ear. The wonder in your eyes. Trell's vertical pupils dilated slightly. Most veterans have lost that by their 3rd posting. Cherish it while it lasts. Below them, Outpost Helios materialized from the planet's perpetual mist, a sprawling research facility nestled between violet mountains and an ocean the color of burnished copper. Maya's heart raced. As the outpost's new xenobiological specialist, she'd study life forms never before catalogued by human scientists. The shuttle touched down with a gentle bump, and Maya gathered her meager belongings. At 32, she'd given up everything on Earth for this opportunity. Her apartment, her long-term relationship, even her beloved collection of rare botanical specimens, all sacrificed for the chance to study alien biology on the edge of known space. The airlock cycled, and Maya stepped onto the landing pad, immediately struck by the planet's gravity, slightly less than Earth's, and the sweet metallic tang of the atmosphere. Her EnviroSuite's sensors flashed green, confirming breathability, though the mixture was richer in noble gases than Earth's air. Dr. Reyes, a lanky man with a close-cropped silver beard, approached. Director Harlow, welcome to the edge of everything. Thank you, sir. I'm eager to begin. Good, because we've got something of a situation developing. Harlow's weathered face tightened. The Vesh delegation arrived yesterday. Maya's pulse quickened. The Vesh were a notoriously reclusive spacefaring species. First contact had occurred only 8 years ago, and interactions remained tense and limited. They'd brought specimens with them, Harlow continued, leading her toward the main complex, including what they call a null shadow, apparently the apex predator of their homeworld. They're planning to exterminate it tomorrow, along with its young. Exterminate? Why bring it here to kill it? Politics. Harlow's mouth twisted. They want representatives from several species to witness the execution, some kind of statement about their technological superiority. The creature apparently decimated 3 of their colonial settlements before they captured it. Maya's scientific curiosity warred with ethical concern, and we're just going to let them. We're guests in this sector, Doctor. The Vesh have been spacefaring for centuries longer than humanity. We don't have much leverage to dictate terms. They entered a turbolift that descended deep into the facility. However, as our xenobiological specialist, I thought you might want to examine the creature before the scheduled termination. The lift doors opened to reveal a reinforced containment area. Through polarized barriers, Maya could make out several tall, willowy figures with iridescent skin. The Vesh delegation. They moved with fluid grace, communicating through a series of melodic clicks and hums that her translator struggled to process. Ambassador Neri, Harlow called, approaching the tallest of the aliens. This is Dr. Reyes, our xenobiological specialist. The Vesh turned, revealing a face with 6 milky eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern. Its mouth was a vertical slit that pulsed with bioluminescence as it spoke. The human studies life patterns. The translator rendered the clicks into stilted English. Yes, Ambassador. I specialize in evolutionary biology and predator-prey dynamics. The Vesh's outer eyes contracted. Then you will appreciate the dangers of the null shadow. Observe. Ambassador Neri gestured toward a heavy containment cell at the far end of the chamber. The polarization cleared, revealing a creature unlike anything Maya had ever seen. It resembled a wolf in its basic anatomy, but the similarities ended there. Its body was covered not in fur, but in what appeared to be living shadow, a light-absorbing substance that rippled and shifted like liquid darkness. 6 limbs, arranged in 3 pairs, ended in wickedly curved claws that seemed to phase in and out of solidity. But it was the creature's head that captivated Maya, a skull-like visage with no visible eyes, yet she felt its attention fix on her immediately. Behind it, 3 smaller versions of the creature huddled together. Cubs, she realized. Magnificent, Maya whispered. Magnificent. The Vesh's voice registered something like alarm. It is a destroyer, a consumer of worlds. For millennia, the null shadow has been the scourge of our people. Maya stepped closer to the barrier, studying the creature. Despite its fearsome appearance, she noted the prominent ribs visible through its shadowy coat, the protective stance it took before its young. It's starving, she said quietly. Of course, we have not fed it. Tomorrow, it dies. Something about the Vesh's casual cruelty struck Maya as wrong. The predator wasn't attacking the barrier, wasn't showing aggression despite its obvious hunger. It was simply waiting, protecting its young. What does it eat? She asked. Anything. Everything. They are entropy embodied. The Vesh made a dismissive gesture. 3 colonial settlements devoured. Thousands dead. Maya frowned. Something didn't add up. Ambassador, I'd like to request permission to study this creature before your scheduled termination. Perhaps there's something we could learn. Study. All 6 of the Vesh's eyes blinked in unison. There is nothing to study. Only death to administer. Director Harlow cleared his throat. Ambassador, surely a brief period of observation by Dr. Reyes wouldn't interfere with your plans. As a gesture of scientific cooperation. The Vesh seemed to consider this, its skin shifting through shades of blue and violet. 1 planetary rotation. No more. And the human must not interfere with the termination. Agreed, Harlow said quickly, before Maya could object. As the Vesh delegation glided away, Maya turned back to the containment cell. The predator had moved closer to the barrier, its eyeless face oriented directly toward her. And despite the absence of any visible sensory organs, Maya had the distinct impression it was studying her just as intently as she was studying it. "What are you?" she whispered. To her shock, the creature placed one 6-clawed paw against the barrier, mirroring her earlier gesture at the viewport. The darkness of its form seemed to pulse, and for just an instant, Maya thought she detected something like intelligence in its posture. "Be careful, Doctor," Harlow warned. "Don't anthropomorphize it. The Vesh have dealt with these creatures for thousands of years. They know what they're doing." But as Maya observed the starving predator protecting its equally malnourished cubs, she wasn't so sure. Something about the Vesh's eagerness to execute these creatures publicly struck her as performative, almost propagandistic. "I'll need access to the facility's xenobiological lab," she said firmly. "And I want to review any data the Vesh have provided about the species." Maya, Harlow's use of her first name, caught her attention. "Don't get attached. In 24 hours, those creatures will be dead. That's not negotiable." She met his gaze steadily. "Then we have 24 hours to learn everything we can from them, don't we?" As she followed Harlow out, Maya glanced back one final time. The predator remained at the barrier, its paw still pressed against the transparent surface. And though it had no eyes to meet hers, Maya felt a connection, a recognition between apex species. In that moment, she made a decision that would alter the fate of 2 species and redefine humanity's place in the galactic order. Whatever the Vesh were hiding, whatever they feared about these predators, Maya would discover it. And perhaps, in the process, save these creatures from extinction. A dangerous alliance. Maya hadn't slept. How could she, with less than 18 hours remaining to understand the creatures the Vesh called null shadows? The research lab hummed with activity as she cross-referenced the limited data the Vesh had provided with her own observations. Their information was suspiciously sparse, mostly accounts of attacks on settlements with casualty figures that seemed exaggerated given the physical capabilities she'd observed in the captive specimens. Consuming patterns inconsistent with territorial predation, she muttered, making another notation. No evidence of feeding frenzy behavior. She rubbed her eyes, fighting fatigue. Something wasn't adding up. According to the Vesh, null shadows were mindless killing machines that destroyed indiscriminately. Yet the mother and cubs had displayed organized behavior, restraint, and what appeared to be advanced problem-solving abilities during her tests. The lab door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and Maya turned to find Director Harlow, his expression grim. "The Vesh delegation is asking questions about your research," he said without preamble. "They're concerned about the amount of time you're spending with the specimens." Maya gestured to her screens. "Look at this data, Director." The Vesh claim these creatures ravaged entire settlements, but their own reports show the attacks were targeted at very specific structures, primarily energy storage facilities and certain types of technical equipment. What are you suggesting? That the null shadows aren't mindless predators. They're selective, intelligent. She pulled up a brain scan she'd taken earlier. Their neural structure is unlike anything I've ever seen. It exists partially in a state of quantum superposition. They may be capable of perceiving reality differently than we do. Harlow frowned. Even if you're right, what difference does it make? The execution is scheduled for 6 hours from now. The Vesh won't change their minds. Maya pushed back from her workstation. Then I need more direct interaction with the specimens. Absolutely not. The containment protocols will remain in place, she interrupted. But I need to get closer, establish contact beyond the barrier. After a tense debate, Harlow reluctantly authorized a controlled interaction protocol. An hour later, Maya stood before a modified section of the containment barrier, where a small, secure transfer chamber had been installed. "This is insanity," muttered Dr. Chen, the facility's security officer, as he monitored the systems. "Those things killed thousands of Vesh." "So they claim," Maya replied. She placed a small container of synthesized proteins, her best guess at a compatible food source, into the transfer chamber. But what if they're wrong? Or lying? The chamber cycled, delivering the container into the enclosure. The mother null shadow approached cautiously, its shadow-like coat rippling with what Maya had begun to interpret as emotional states. The cubs hung back, their forms flickering between visibility and something else, a state that her instruments couldn't quite capture. To everyone's surprise, the mother ignored the food completely. Instead, it approached the barrier directly where Maya stood, placing its paw against the surface once more. Up close, Maya could see that what appeared to be shadow stuff was actually millions of tiny structures, nanofilaments that constantly shifted and rearranged themselves. "It wants to communicate," she whispered. "That's a projection," Chen warned. "It's displaying predatory interest, nothing more." Maya wasn't convinced. Following an impulse she couldn't quite explain, she placed her palm against the barrier, directly opposite the creature's paw. The effect was immediate and startling. The barrier between them seemed to thin, not physically but perceptually, as if reality itself had grown permeable. And then, impossibly, she heard a voice in her mind. "Defender. See truth. Help." Maya gasped, stumbling backward. "Did you hear that?" Chen looked at her strangely. "Hear what?" "It spoke to me," she said, aware of how it sounded. "Telepathically. Dr. Rice, perhaps you should rest. Sleep deprivation can." "I'm not hallucinating." Maya stepped forward again, placing her hand against the barrier once more. "Hello. Can you understand me?" "Yes." Long waiting for one who sees true. Vesh blind themselves to truth. Maya's scientific mind raced with explanations. The quantum neural structure she'd observed could theoretically support consciousness that extended beyond conventional physical limitations, perhaps even enabling direct mind-to-mind contact. "What are you?" she asked silently, focusing her thoughts. "We are Kirith. We hunt what harms the balance. The Vesh know this. What balance? The void currents. The flowing between. The Vesh poison it with their machines. We consume only the poison. Understanding dawned on Maya. You weren't attacking their settlements randomly. You were targeting their technology, something specific that was damaging your environment. Yes, for generations, we maintain balance. Vesh fear this truth. Easier to make us monsters. The implications were staggering. If the Kirith were selectively neutralizing harmful technology rather than attacking indiscriminately, the entire narrative the Vesh had constructed collapsed. I want to help you, Maya thought. But I need proof to convince the others. Touch direct. See through my perception. Understand fully. Maya glanced at Chen, who was watching her with growing concern. I need to enter the enclosure. Absolutely not, he said immediately. Dr. Rice, you're not thinking clearly. I've never thought more clearly in my life. She met his gaze steadily. Open the access port. That's an order. You don't have the authority. Override Xenobiology Protocol 7 Alpha, she said, citing an obscure regulation that granted chief xenobiologists emergency authority in first contact scenarios. Log my authorization and open the port. Chen hesitated, then reluctantly entered the override sequence. Director Harlow will have my head for this. I'll take full responsibility. Maya removed her lab coat and approached the small personnel access port. If I show any signs of distress, activate the emergency extraction protocol. You're completely insane, Chen muttered, but he initiated the sequence. The access port cycled open with a warning chime. Maya stepped through into the enclosure, heart pounding. The Mother Kirith, she refused to use the derogatory Vesh term, null shadow, any longer, stood perfectly still, waiting. The cubs had retreated to the far corner, watching with what Maya could now recognize as curiosity rather than aggression. I'm here, Maya said aloud, extending her hand slowly. Show me what I need to see. The Kirith approached with fluid grace, its 6 limbs moving in perfect synchronization. Up close, Maya could see subtle patterns in its shadow coat, constellations of microscopic structures that shifted and flowed like a living galaxy. When its paw touched her hand, the world transformed. Maya gasped as her perception expanded exponentially. Suddenly, she could see energy flows, quantum fields, radiation patterns, and something else entirely, currents of force that seemed to flow between dimensions. The Kirith's consciousness merged partially with hers, guiding her through this new sensory landscape. See now. The Vesh machines tear the void fabric. Through the Kirith's perception, Maya witnessed Vesh technology feeding parasitically on these interdimensional currents, creating destructive resonance patterns that propagated outward. The Kirith didn't attack settlements out of aggression. They surgically removed the specific technologies causing this damage, consuming the exotic energy they emitted in the process. For millennia, we maintain balance. Vesh fear our knowing. Easier to destroy than change. They're scared of you because you expose their lie, Maya realized. Their technology is fundamentally destructive to this region of space, and you're the only ones who can perceive it. Yes, cubs must live to continue our purpose. Without Kirith, the void tears grow. All suffer then. Maya withdrew her hand, gasping as her perception returned to normal. The experience had been overwhelming but enlightening. She now understood exactly what was at stake and why the Vesh were so determined to exterminate these creatures. I won't let them kill you, she promised. As if on cue, the facility's alarms blared. Director Harlow's voice came over the intercom. Dr. Reyes, evacuate the containment area immediately. The Vesh delegation has moved up the termination schedule. They're on their way down now. Maya looked at the Kirith mother, who stood protectively before her cubs. I need to get you out of here. No escape through barriers. Vesh technologies block void walking. Void walking. How we move between spaces. How we hunt the harmful. Vesh use anti-resonance fields to trap us here. Maya's mind raced. The field generators, if I could disable them. Yes. Freedom then. Safety for cubs. She turned toward the access port, only to find it locked down. Chen was frantically working the controls outside, but the system had been overridden. Through the barrier, she could see a contingent of Vesh approaching, carrying what appeared to be ceremonial weapons. Chen. The field generators. Where are they controlled from? Secondary systems room, he called back. But it's too late. They've locked everything down. Maya turned back to the Kirith. I can't get out to help you. The mother Kirith moved closer, its shadow coat rippling with what Maya now recognized as determination. Together then, join minds fully. Share strength. You guide. I act. A neural link. Maya's scientific caution warred with desperate necessity. It could be dangerous for both of us. Death comes otherwise. Choose quickly, defender. The facility doors slid open as the Vesh delegation entered, Ambassador Neri at their head. Their ceremonial weapons hummed with energy that Maya now understood was specifically calibrated to disrupt the Kirith's quantum neural structure. Looking into the faceless void where the Kirith's eyes would be, Maya made her decision. Show me how. The hunt. The neural connection with the Kirith mother was nothing like the brief touch they'd shared before. This was complete immersion. Two consciousnesses flowing together like tributaries joining to form a river. Maya felt her perception expand exponentially, reality unfurling around her in dimensions she'd never imagined. Through their joined awareness, she understood the Kirith completely. They weren't simply predators. They were guardians of cosmic equilibrium, evolved to detect and neutralize disruptions in what they called the void currents, quantum fields that flowed between dimensions. For millennia, they had maintained balance on their shared homeworld with the Vesh, selectively hunting technologies that damaged these invisible fields. But the Vesh had grown ambitious. Their civilization advanced by exploiting these interdimensional energies, heedless of the damage caused. When the Kirith tried to stop them, the Vesh reframed the narrative, casting the Guardians as mindless killers, monsters to be feared and exterminated. Path to freedom requires void current access. The Kirith mother communicated directly into Maya's consciousness. Control node must be disrupted. Through their shared perception, Maya identified what the Kirith meant, a humming device in the secondary systems room that generated the containment field. The field wasn't just physical. It operated on quantum levels, preventing the Kirith from accessing their natural ability to phase between dimensional states. Ambassador Neri, Director Harlow was saying, his voice sounding distant to Maya's altered perception. This is highly irregular. The agreement was for termination tomorrow, with proper observation protocols. Circumstances have changed. The Vesh leader responded coldly. Your xenobiologist has contaminated the specimens. The nulls must be destroyed immediately. Maya felt the Kirith mother's desperation, not for herself, but for her cubs. They are the future balance. Without new guardians, the void tears will spread. I won't let that happen, Maya promised silently. Using their joined consciousness, Maya directed her focus toward the control systems. The Kirith's perception allowed her to see the facility's power conduits as glowing networks, pulsing with energy. Focusing her will through the Kirith's quantum neural structure, she reached out, not physically, but with a kind of mental force she'd never known she possessed. In the secondary systems room, circuits overloaded. The containment field flickered momentarily. Ambassador Neri froze, all six eyes widening in alarm. Impossible. The female is void-touching. Stop her. The Vesh raised their weapons, but Maya and the Kirith were faster. With another focused burst of will, they overloaded the main power junction. Emergency lights flashed as the facility switched to backup systems. The containment field collapsed entirely. Everyone out, Harlow shouted, pulling Chen toward the exit. Evacuation Protocol Alpha. But the Vesh didn't retreat. Instead, they formed a semicircle, weapons raised. The nulls must not escape, Ambassador Neri declared. This is why we brought them here. Neutral territory. away from our homeworld. If they return, all we have built will be at risk. Maya finally understood the Vesh's true motivation. They hadn't brought the Kirith here for a simple execution. They'd brought them to a human outpost because they feared the consequences of killing the creatures on their shared homeworld. Feared what might happen to the balance the Kirith maintained. "Now we hunt," the Kirith mother communicated. What followed was unlike anything Maya had experienced. Still joined in consciousness with the Kirith, she felt her perception shift as the predator's form began to change. The shadow stuff of its body rippled, then seemed to fold inward, entering a state of quantum flux. The cubs followed suit, their forms becoming indistinct, halfway between matter and energy. Through their shared awareness, Maya guided them, not toward the Vesh with their weapons, but toward the facility's central core, where the primary field generators were housed. The Kirith moved like living shadows, passing through solid matter, as if it were mist, bringing Maya's consciousness along for the journey. Behind them, the Vesh gave chase, but they were too slow, too limited by physical reality. "They fear what they cannot control," the Kirith explained as they phased through walls and conduits. For generations, they have hidden truth from themselves. They reached the central core, a massive chamber housing the outpost's main reactor and field generator systems. Here, Maya directed the Kirith toward specific systems that, once disabled, would prevent the Vesh from trapping them again. But as the Kirith mother approached the primary generator, alarm klaxons began to wail. "Attention all personnel," an automated voice announced. "Critical system failure detected. Reactor containment destabilizing. Evacuation protocols initiated. This facility will self-destruct in 15 minutes. Horror washed through Maya. The Vesh must have triggered the self-destruct sequence. They were willing to sacrifice the entire outpost rather than allow the Kirith to escape. "Cubs in danger," the Kirith mother communicated urgently. "Help them escape, Boyd. I must stabilize the human machine before it breaks reality." "You can stop the meltdown?" Maya asked through their link. "Yes. My purpose, consume harmful energies, restore balance, but cannot protect cubs simultaneously." Maya understood what was being asked of her. "Tell me what to do." The neural link shifted, some of the Kirith's consciousness flowing into Maya like a transfer of knowledge. Suddenly, she understood how to guide the cubs through what the Kirith called the void between, a quantum state that existed in the spaces between conventional dimensions. "Take cubs to safe place," the mother instructed. "I will follow when balance is restored." The neural link began to separate, the Kirith mother gently withdrawing from Maya's mind while leaving behind the knowledge she would need. As their consciousnesses parted, Maya felt a profound sense of loss, but also determination. The three cubs approached her, their forms flickering between states. Without the full neural link, Maya couldn't communicate with them as clearly, but she sensed their trust and their fear for their mother. "I'll keep them safe," Maya promised aloud. "You have my word." The Kirith mother's form shifted, expanding into a maelstrom of living shadow that enveloped the destabilizing reactor core. As Maya watched, the creature began absorbing the harmful radiation and quantum fluctuations, its body pulsing with absorbed energy. The emergency countdown paused, then reset. "Reactor stabilizing," the automated system announced. "Self-destruct sequence aborted." But Maya could see the toll it was taking on the Kirith mother. Absorbing so much chaotic energy at once was beyond even her evolved capabilities. She was sacrificing herself to save everyone in the outpost, human and Vesh alike. "Go now," came one final, fading thought from the Kirith mother. "Teach my cubs. Show truth to others." Tears streaming down her face, Maya turned to the three Kirith cubs. Using the knowledge transferred to her, she focused her mind on creating what the Kirith called a void gate, a temporary passage into the quantum spaces between dimensions. Reality before them seemed to fold, revealing a shimmering darkness that wasn't absence but a different kind of presence. The cubs understood immediately, moving toward the opening. The facility doors burst open as Ambassador Neri and several Vesh warriors rushed in, weapons raised. "Stop," Neri commanded. "The nulls belong to us." Maya stood protectively before the cubs as they slipped one by one into the void gate. "They don't belong to anyone," she said firmly. "They're sentient beings with a purpose you've chosen to ignore because it interferes with your ambitions. You understand nothing," Neri hissed, weapon charging. "Our civilization depends on the energies they would deny us. Your civilization is built on destroying the very fabric of reality," Maya countered. "Look." She pointed to where the Kirith mother was still enveloping the reactor, visibly weakening as she stabilized the meltdown the Vesh had triggered. "She's saving everyone in this facility, including you, at the cost of her own life. Is that the action of a mindless predator?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the Vesh ambassador's alien features. The other Vesh lowered their weapons slightly, watching as the Kirith mother's form began to fade, her energy depleting. "The balance must be maintained," Maya continued, stepping backward toward the void gate as the last cub disappeared through it. "Your technology is creating tears in the quantum fabric of this region. The Kirith evolved to heal those tears. Kill them, and you doom yourselves along with countless other species who share this space." The reactor's warning lights dimmed as the Kirith mother completed her work. The shadow-like creature dropped heavily to the floor, her form flickering weakly. Maya made her decision. Instead of following the cubs through the void gate, she ran to the fallen Kirith, placing her hands on the creature's fading form. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Your cubs are safe. I kept my promise." A faint tendril of consciousness touched Maya's mind. "Good. They will grow strong. Remember." "Ambassador," Maya called, not taking her eyes from the dying Kirith. "You have a choice. Continue this path of destruction, or learn from what you've witnessed here. The Kirith aren't your enemies. They're the immune system of this region of space, responding to the disease your technology represents." Neri approached slowly, all 6 eyes fixed on the Kirith mother. For a long moment, the Vesh was silent, studying the creature that had just saved them all from certain death. "How do we proceed?" Neri finally asked, voice subdued. "We learn," Maya answered simply. "We adapt. We find ways to advance that don't destroy the foundations of reality itself." She gestured to the void gate, which was beginning to close without her focus to maintain it. "The cubs will survive, hidden beyond your reach. But there's still time to change, to build a new relationship with the Kirith based on understanding instead of fear." As the Kirith mother's form faded completely, Maya felt a final pulse of emotion, not regret or sorrow, but a profound sense of purpose fulfilled. The creature had protected its young and restored balance, even at the cost of its own existence. In that moment, as the void gate closed and reality normalized around them, Maya knew that her work was just beginning. Evolution's hand. 6 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the newly established Kirith Research Center, watching as researchers from a dozen species collaborated below. What had begun as a crisis had evolved into something unprecedented, a multi-species initiative to understand the quantum ecologies that the Kirith had protected for millennia. Director Harlow joined her at the viewport, his expression thoughtful. "The Galactic Council has officially recognized the Kirith as a protected sentient species," he reported. The Vesh delegation cast the deciding vote. Maya smiled slightly. Ambassador Neri finally accepted the evidence. More than accepted it. The Vesh have begun retrofitting their entire technological infrastructure. They're calling it the Equilibrium Initiative. Below them, a team of Vesh scientists worked alongside humans and 3 other species, studying holographic models of what they now called void currents, the quantum fields that flowed between dimensions, which the Kirith had evolved to protect. "And the cubs?" Harlow asked quietly. Maya's expression softened. "Growing. Learning. I visit them weekly in the sanctuary zone." After the incident at Outpost Helios, Maya had established a protected area on the planet's southern continent, a region where the void currents ran particularly strong. There, the three Kirith cubs had established a territory, safe from interference while they matured. The neural link she had formed with their mother had left Maya permanently changed. She couldn't phase between dimensions as the Kirith did, but she could perceive the void currents faintly, like seeing movements in peripheral vision. More importantly, she could still communicate with the cubs, serving as a bridge between their perception and that of conventional spacefaring species. The Council wants a formal report on the symbiotic relationship you're proposing, Harlow continued. Some members remain skeptical that predator species like the Kirith can truly coexist with technological civilizations. They're not just predators, Maya corrected gently. They're guardians. The distinction matters. She turned away from the viewport, activating a holographic display. Data from their research filled the air around them, complex models showing how Vesh technology had been creating microscopic tears in the quantum fabric of spacetime. Tears that had been slowly expanding until the Kirith intervened. The real breakthrough came when we stopped thinking in terms of species competition and started thinking in terms of cosmic ecology, Maya explained. Every action in physical space creates ripples in the quantum layers beneath. The Kirith evolved to sense those ripples and maintain equilibrium, and the Vesh technology was essentially strip mining the quantum substrate of reality. Maya manipulated the display, showing projections of what would have happened without Kirith intervention. Given another century, the damage would have been irreversible, not just for their homeworld, but for this entire sector of space. Harlow shook his head, still struggling to grasp the scales involved. And now we have a chance to evolve together. Maya smiled. The Vesh are brilliant engineers. Once they understood the problem, they began developing technology that works with the void currents instead of against them. Their new propulsion systems are twice as efficient and cause no quantum disruption. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. Maya accepted it, and a holographic representation of Ambassador Neri materialized before them. Dr. Reyes, the Vesh greeted, its 6 eyes arranged in what Maya had learned was a pattern of formal respect. The Council has approved the joint custodianship proposal. Effective immediately, humanity and the Vesh will share responsibility for the Kirith Sanctuary Zone. Thank you, Ambassador. Maya inclined her head. And the educational initiative. Also approved. The truth of our historical relationship with the Kirith will be taught to all Vesh youth. The ambassador's skin rippled with subtle bioluminescence, an indication of emotional depth that